I think that when I listen to this album and any of the music you've made since you came out in 2006, I've asked myself every time, do I even know this band at all? And it's the best question I could possibly ask at that moment. I know you would never be so cerebral as to assume that's going to be asked, but because I guess you're just following your gut every time. But man, you followed it down the beautiful road on this record, Alex.
Thank you.
And not thank you as a fan enough for what you made.
I beg your pardon, sorry.
He wants me to say it again.
No,
I cannot thank you enough for making what you've made.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I know you're putting it out, so you're proud of it. Does it feel like something you have any sort of objectivity over, or like what is it?
We started making it what feels like a long time ago now, and it probably is a longer time than it normally would be when we're having this conversation. Now we're in that sort of starting to play it, and it's becoming something else almost now too.
When did you start it? Let's get a timeline cooking.
I started here actually. The introduction of Mirror Ball and that whole song really. That was the point. Yeah, a couple of years ago, where that was the first thing I found that I thought this is the way to go.
I feel like that might be one of the best things you've ever written. Honestly, as a fan, like we know each other, but as a fan, I was floored when I heard that. I'm assuming that just came out of nowhere.
I'd had the introduction to it kicking around for a bit. But I think when I figured out how to sort of get it into how to sort of make that into, move in the direction of a pop song was the kind of the turning point, and the door opened to like where I thought we should be heading. Spent like the next 2 years trying to figure out what else should go with that, really. Like, I think in the past with the other records, there has usually been a moment a bit like that where you kind of, I don't know, with AM it was probably Do I Want to Know, and you sort of realise you've found a place to go and get a bit excited about it.
I'm using this word, but I can't think of a different word to use. It's a sexy song. It's a song that's kind of got a tempo to it that feels like, okay, we're going to lean into groove here. We're going to have some real bottom end kicking in here. I'm going to be able to talk my talk in a certain way. That is, to me, desperately sad song. Right. Arrangement, musicality, just that little moog or whatever that's just
yeah.
The whole thing, the strings at the end which take us into a bit of a Marvin Gaye space. The whole thing is just like, like I put it on to feel something, and I can imagine that if that's your North Star, that's going to take a lot of work to try and find friends for that. I didn't realize that in the moment, but I think, yeah, it was to the point where sometimes it's like, oh, this isn't the record we should make. Yeah.
But it was always there was that and something else that didn't kind of end up in the final cut, but that were kind of felt like they were the start and the finish of it, and yeah, they're trying to find what went in between. It took a while to reveal itself.
Well, also as a band who came out kicking doors down as youth should, and making racket and playing fast, and to get to a place where everybody's comfortable enough in their own ability to play to way less, do way less. How, even as a group of friends who know each other so well as you know each other, how do you get to a place where you're all in agreement that that's how that should go? Because the law of physics would suggest someone would be like, I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
It's been a minute, let me play.
I guess, I don't know, as time has gone on, you're still a part of the thing when you're the one not playing. Like, I think it's somewhat, that's sort of the way almost it feels like it's still you that's not playing, serving
a different purpose, for the greater good, which is ultimately to see the song through to something you can all be proud of, right?
Yeah, and I think we're sort of, in rough agreement about where what this thing is or can be now.
As a fan, I fall deeply in love with every one of your albums and then secretly hope that you're going to pick up where you left off, and you don't. Maybe with the exception of the first two.
Right.
The second one felt like, okay, because it was turned around real quick, and it was like, all right, cool, this works. Let's just go fast and we'll go better and we'll go harder, and there were differences. But it was like, okay, there's a relationship there. I don't really hear too much of a relationship between your albums. Do you? Do you think that way, or do you agree with what I'm saying, that it feels like it's a fresh start every time, and whether you mean to or not?
The thing I keep thinking about, or like the thing that's the same about them all, is you're still listening to that same instinct that you were in the first place, and trying to find a way to trust that, I suppose. In
the space between Arctic Monkeys albums, do you feel like the next Arctic Monkeys album is guaranteed, or do you allow yourself space to imagine a life without it?
Certainly with this one, it always seemed, I remember the end of the tour in 2019, then I was thinking, let's get back in straight away and kind of take some of that live energy in one of these rooms and try and get after something like that, which is kind of really amusing now when you hear the way the record has come out. Like,
I hear it all the time.
I'm not the first person to say that.
No, unfortunately, no. Not unfortunately, just I mean, I think it's one of those things that you have this feeling that okay, this is where we're going to go from here, but just the instinct is somewhere else.
Yeah, like you sort of almost the moment you have that thought, it's kind of like
it's
forget
redundant.
about it.
It's redundant almost. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a song that we had kind of I'd written, and there is footage of me playing it in backstage in Mexico in 2019, and it's like all downstrokes. I'm kind of trying to I can see in the footage like I'm trying to get there. And then I don't know, I suppose you just get off the road and suddenly but yeah, that's where I remember that was the thought of at that moment in time was, let's try and make a song that we can close the show with.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but
yeah,
it's a really valiant thought.
Yeah,
it very rarely works.
It's just like, let's do something big.
You're staring down the barrel of 30 years of Are You Mine if you don't, right? So it's just like, how do we break that spell?
Yeah, like, yeah. I think it's just sort of one reprise too many of that. I was like, right, we got to find another way out of here. But what I will say is, whilst this record doesn't have something like that, but I don't know, it remains to be seen whether it does, I suppose. But yeah. I do feel like there's something about the essence of that idea of like a show closing thing that kind of has like filtered through it in some vague way.